because it was a long explanation and it might be a better idea to continue in the next video. But okay, and this is video 3. Continuing on from part 2, where I mentioned about active meditation. If you would like to check it out, go back a video, I mean, just to see what my definitions are. Actually, to be fair, there's a lot of importance in finding out what a person's definition about something is, if we wish to receive and achieve understanding with others, because mostly if we don't look for other people's definitions, we're practically limiting ourselves to our own, which is kind of like a prison. Kind of like experiencing a prison. We expand our ideas and possibilities that way, and also you see more clearly what that person actually does and wishes to do. Whereas if we're in our prison, we react very impulsively, and let's say that 99.999 till the 10th 9% we don't actually get the essence of the information that person or object or event or whatever it is gives us, as well as an experience. I mean, experiences are very important in our life. They're actually the basis for our life. There's no better way to experience like physical reality. So what happened? This is an ET encounter story. It's actually kind of short and might expand it because it's interesting, and I would like to share what I saw, what I experienced. But it was interesting because I was reading a book. It's Cogitality Academy's third book in their encyclopedia series, which I'm actually very excited to read because all the books have been very exciting and revealing on what our reality actually is. I'm going to show you the Bulgarian version because I don't have it. I'm guessing I don't have anything else, and I'm guessing that it hasn't been translated yet, since it's not the final edit hasn't been released yet. But just to show you what the book represents, it practically has pictures that are very expansive on the ideas that it's looking into. It's related to physics. This is something that's very important. If you like, you can find a lot of information in the first 2 books that are translated, so look it up. I will put a link below in the video to their websites. It's actually very interesting because it unifies for me. Okay, so this is all my opinion and experience. For me, it does really unify what was it called? Science and esoteric in a unique way that I haven't seen before. Now, saying that, I am aware of Gaia existing, the streaming spiritual service, but I haven't actually seen a lot of it. I haven't bought a subscription to it, so I don't really know what information there is. I'm sure it's great there as well, but for now, this is the best source of information for me, scientifically wise, from a scientific point of view, because everything is actually logical. Everything, what was it? Abnormal or paranormal receives its regular logic, scientific definition. And I actually couldn't believe it, but there's actually a physicist who said that magic is just the laws of physics that we haven't yet discovered. So this is, for me, this is a step closer in that regard. An important thing to mention: I'm really happy with what I've learned in the academy, and it actually helped me create a basis that is currently my new way of life, from which I'm actually happy. Of course, you can receive that from other sources, I'm sure. I'm not saying or wishing to diminish any other piece of information, but I'm just sharing what's the case with me. This is how I started. This is in a way how I'm continuing, because I'm not really that deeply involved with the academy anymore. But what I've seen as information is great. I really would like to share that with you. Continuing on, the experience. I was reading the book, and I don't know, currently I'm experiencing a lot of waves of excitement and passion, what have you. I'm not always expressing them in the best way. Something bugged me or poked me from the inside, and I was actually in the office, and the way I was reading it was like this, right? This is how my desk is. I had my feet up because the office is practically empty now due to the coronavirus, so I do allow myself to do those things. I don't think there's anybody that can see me and complain. That's why I'm doing it. Of course, I'm not saying that it's something great to do, but this was my position, and I was reading it, like the tablet, I had it in my hand, I was reading it, and a thought came through my mind that really bugged me. I had a cup of water with me. This isn't a cup, of course, because I won't. It's just for the example. And I actually started pounding on the desk. And it was a more solid sound than this. And the first thing that came to mind was courtroom and the judge's hammer hitting. In which case, I actually heard the court is now in session in my mind, which really sounded like opening frequency portal with a specific event. Let's call it that. Frequency portals, Inky Practical build. I will upload that as well, as again the same as the here and now explanations. But you can also see it in the academy, just so you know. Or this is where I learned it from. And usually when it's really immersive experience, that's what I would like to start, so that you can understand what happened, because I really hate it when my mind floats off to somewhere. I prefer to be focused on what I'm doing, because then I actually know what I'm doing. If my mind flows away, I start thinking about practical things, there's practically no point in those thoughts. So it was an immersive experience, like entering a regression or a meditation. And usually when that happens, I have a side effect where my eyesight actually blurs out. And since my pineal gland is activating, the so-called third eye, I start seeing color. I start receiving visions, is probably the most common, but I start seeing other things. and most of the time it's me transporting to another place and seeing what's happening there. Now in this case it was a court with aliens. I've seen them before. Some of them I've seen before. I've talked with them. Again, I have been experienced in this. I've been working in this direction for the last 5, almost 6 years, I think. I have forgotten the exact number, but I should be. This year should be the 6th. So it's practically from experience and some connections I've already made. I'm sure that a lot of other people have as well. This is actually an interesting fact that I might discuss because it's interesting. Of course, I'm not really the person that can give you the information, the best side of the information, because it's not really something I'm very excited about. But encounters I do deem important, so that's why I'm sharing them, as well as if since mostly the connection with extraterrestrials I'm not sure if I can pronounce it right. I'm going to repeat it in the mirror until I get it right after the videos. I hope you're having as much fun as I am. The connection happens through meditation or channeling or a specific state that we are able to connect with another conscience, and actually channel through the information, in which case the idea is to adapt that information so that we can expand our horizon and actually be prepared for open contact, I mean physical contact. Now, I think this is the most important part, and practically a meditation is where you don't have a state in where you don't have any resistance, or you're letting go of resistance. It depends on what the meditation in your state is, in my opinion. So that it's practically expanding our perception and horizon and our abilities, which is why it's more, this is the state in which we can channel and receive that information, because it's more expansive, right? If you have looked into the internet, you've seen all sorts of theories, but mostly I think that most of the theories are that they are more advanced than us. So since they are more advanced, we have to catch up to them. To be able to see them for once. For example, consider our visible frequency range, right? If we can see in only a specific, and it's a very, very tight frequency range. If you look at the table with the whole frequency range, it's huge. I mean, huge. And we're seeing like only this part. Since the aliens are more advanced, their frequency range would be more expanded, and this is probably why we can't, in my opinion, why we can't see them, because they actually operate in a bigger in the frequency that we can perceive, and the ones that we can is probably the meditative state. It's probably both, that it's the state in which we can perceive them, but also the state in which we actually tap into their addition, that expanded frequency range. It's an interesting thought, in my opinion. So this is why all contacts, except with the grays, but it's another thing to talk about. All other contact is through specific synchronicities, channeling states, meditation, jump scares sometimes. It's really not the idea of being scared, more as to get you out of your comfort zone so that you can learn something new, you know? Because when you're afraid, your brain is actually more active to adapt in order to survive, right? So in that case, being scared is a positive thing. Think about it. And look at the great perspective of the duality, right? It's fun. Anyways, continuing on, the image that I started seeing was a courthouse. Firstly, it was the court is now in session part. Then, of course, I'm hearing them in Bulgarian because this is my native language. I'm translating it, so I might not be hearing exactly what I'm translating. This might be a pointless underlining, but just for clarity's sake, let's have it. And it was a courthouse. I was one of the judges or jury. I don't know. We were actually. It was a jury. It was a courtroom, but it's different than what our usual courtroom is. It was a circle. At the center was the defendant. I really hated the idea of the defendant. I'll tell about it a little later on. And around the circle are all the judges and juries, and everybody has everything, I think, because there was actually one judge and everybody else was a jury. It was something like a round table. Arthur, the British king, pulled out the sword. Arthur? I don't remember if that was the name and how it's pronounced in English. The round tables, the round table for the knights and King Arthur. I think it might be representative of something similar. It doesn't really matter for me. I'm just visualizing the image. And the weird part, the alien that the jury that was around the table were all different sorts of aliens, but I wasn't really focused on them, so I just noticed the judge. He's actually the one that I've spoken with before. As far as I know, he's the this might sound strange, manager of the moon. Alright, because there's a lot of theories that the moon is actually not a natural satellite of the Earth. It's actually a space station from which they're watching us. I do agree with that theory. That's probably why I'm seeing it that way and interpreting it that way. I'm not going to force that idea on you. You can check it out for yourself if you wish. And I'm just wondering what should I say next? Okay, let's go with the defendant. The defendant was a green creature, and initially I was confused because what I actually saw was a little worm-like green creature with really beautiful black eyes. I mean, they really were popping out. They were like a little like a dog, doggy eyes, that type of look. I think it had a mustache which looked kind of weird for me. That's why I'm not sure if it's a mustache. It actually turned out that it's aquatic being, which could be why the mustache looks weird to me, because it's not a regular hairy mustache like the ones we develop. It's something like some of the fish that we have in our seas and oceans. So the court was weird, or the theme of the court. It was, as far as I could tell, everybody in the room was experiencing first contact with this species from the one that the defendant is. And they were actually judging him on should he be punished for killing his parents, in which case the next thing that I heard was that he ate them. It was a little weird for me, but I actually became angry at that point, because judging isn't something that anybody should do, in my opinion. Everybody has the right to have the right to do whatever he pleases. I mean, from a global point of view, nothing has built-in meaning. If you accept if I, you, or anybody accepts something as positive, somebody else will experience and accept it as negative, and that's pretty much all of it. And in my experience, we define our own experiences, and by our definitions we actually create our reality, because nothing has built-in meaning. That's the expression that I was looking for. And judging someone for doing something, practically, in my opinion, is wrong, because I can't tell if it's good or bad. It might be bad for me, but it might be good for him. And as it turns out, it was actually something that their species go through when their parents are very old, in order to accumulate more of what the parents represent, right? So the kids adapt and accept, as well as assimilate, the experience of the parents. This is just their final step when the parents become very old. It was it was interesting for me to hear, because I haven't thought about it and I'm not thinking of doing it, as well as I don't know of anyone that has done it. So that's okay. But still, I got mad because I started thinking that I was called for to judge someone, and I'm like, I made a promise to myself that I won't be judging anyone, right? Because everybody has the right to do whatever he pleases. It's his choice, and if he's able to do it, then it's a valid choice. Anyway, I actually started shouting in the room, which I was surprised how everybody was so calm at my shouting. At which point I was thinking that I was emotionally unreasonable, or emotionally mature, but I did start shouting, let them go, it's not our job to judge them. It looked like everybody agreed with that, but the judge asked me if that's really something we should do in case that really is a bad thing, which I don't know what it means. I guess it was some sort of test towards me in my judgment if it's good or bad. Because at that point I actually started feeling wrong for just letting him go, right? If you do something, you're supposed to be responsible for what you did. And that's when I remembered that probably his sentence should be to take responsibility for what he did. And I asked the alien, I don't know her name, by the way. Didn't ask. Anyways, I asked the alien if it will take responsibility for its actions, and he said yes. In which case, the judge said, "Great, you let him go." And that was very interesting for me because it was really I think it was an educational experience for me. That's how I'm seeing it. I'm not sure if that's the whole case, but it was very, okay, let's say it like this. It was very educational for me to see and realize how important it is to be responsible. Now, after that, I was very curious to learn more about the defendant aliens species, because I'm actually a big fan of the Bashar sessions, and he's a first contact specialist, an alien that is being channeled and is helping us and preparing us for open contact with extraterrestrials. And the first thing that, when they released the defendant, the first thing that I remembered was that I would like to make contact with it as best I can. Right, I'll attempt to be responsible, I'll attempt to be well-mannered or whatever is required from me. And everybody actually let me do it. They left us alone, we talked for a while. It was interesting because what was bugging me about the alien was that it seemed like a really tiny, I mean, probably that long of a worm, but at the same time, I also saw it with a huge monster, kind of looking like, okay, it doesn't really look like that, but it was very green and it reminded me of Grinch, the Christmas monster that wants to steal Christmas. But it didn't really look like him or her. I'm not sure if Grinch is a female or a male. In any case, we talked a little. He showed me how they speak. It was weird from my perspective, that has to be mentioned, because he became big, he opened his mouth, and it was like he was screaming at me, but it was a really thin sound. It wasn't really something that you would like to hear. And while he was doing that, his tongue was tangling, but it was tangling like around 100, or sorry, 10. It was 10 because he later told me that when they are most mature, they receive 10 tongues. So they develop 10 tongues. Literally, I mean, tongues. And they help with their feeding. So what I learned from him was that they speak sort of like dolphins, like impulses. They use their smaller form, which they look like a worm, to communicate with the little fishes, I'm going to call them, so that you receive an idea of what I mean, on their planet. they're not fishes. I actually didn't look at what they are exactly, but the little other beings that they live side by side, and that's how they make friends when they're not for regular conversation and contact, right? They make themselves smaller. They make themselves smaller in order to not look so menacing, because all the little creatures are scared of their huge form. Now they know of their huge form, but in most cases, as the alien told me, is when they feed, because they have to feed as well. Another thing is, if somebody is shamming the little creatures into eating them, which doesn't sound good, but it really has a choice of feeding, right? Mostly he told me that he feeds like a plant. It's a really wide mouth. When he's in his big form and he opens it up, it's practically 3 times my size in all directions, right? So I'm 1.70 m in height, and it's 3 times as huge and wide in all directions. That's another thing that I saw interesting. Between all the tongues, there's a hole from which they usually suck in their food. Usually it's a plant. He acts like a plant where he opens his mouth, and when something passes above him, he just sucks it in. And sometimes he dangles his tongue. He dangles his tongues, and if anybody comes closer to play with the tongue, he grabs him and shoves him down the hole, his mouth. That's pretty much it. I wanted to share this with you because, like I said, I'm a fan of the Bashar sessions. I'm really wishing to expand our opportunities as a race for open contact, and I do believe that through sharing experiences like this, we are able to come closer. Now, actually saying that, I remember that I should share my experiences with the wolf-headed aliens that live on Orion, because they're the ones that I keep in contact the most through meditation. For everybody that doesn't believe me, it's all in a meditative state. I can't prove anything, except if you experience it yourself. Now, usually, alright, this is something important. While I was talking with the green alien, I got goosebumps, and it's the sort of goosebumps that you feel a huge release. Usually I accept it as accepting and assimilating new frequencies, as well as being open for more. This is how I experience it. But to be fair, one of the best definitions that I've seen for goosebumps is, if you get goosebumps, then that particular thing, event, whatever it is 100% truth for your reality. I'm saying your reality because everybody lives in his own world. This is something that is very widely explained and talked about throughout everywhere, I think, in all the teachings. So have that in mind, right? This is why I'm telling you that I can't prove anything. It's better if you experience it for yourself, because if you don't look for it yourself, you won't actually see it, right? You only have a limited particular idea that's based on my or somebody else's perspective, opinion, and experience. But your own experience is what will lead you to making actual choices. That's it. somebody else's enthusiasm and sharing might help you make a decision, but the most powerful way that we make choices is through experience. That's pretty much it. And I don't think this will change anytime. I mean, this is a basis for our existence. So my advice usually would be experience as much as you can, whatever you can, so that you can expand your horizon and be more adaptive, at least. And this is the bare minimum of what will happen. If you're in positive mindset, right? If you're in a negative, you'll probably go crazy. You know, right? A lot of crazy conditions are unadaptive, are the negative side of the coin, in my opinion, or at least what I've seen. Alright, in the end we agreed to keep in touch, just to communicate if he has any questions, if they have any questions. As far as I understand that their planet is or their solar system is moving in closer to us, which is why we are able to make contact with them. I said we because everybody is able to. What else? Yeah, well, we're so close, we decided to share and expand our knowledges. Anyways, this was fun. Let's do it again. We will. I'll definitely record another video about something else. I'll have to think about what the next thing is, but there's always something. So this is it for now. I'll be ending this video, starting the Bulgarian version, and then I will say extraterrestrial in front of the mirror a couple of times until I get it right. I'll cut the videos and I'll probably upload them tomorrow. It's close to 1 a.m. here, so it's getting kind of late. I have to go to work tomorrow, which sometimes it's not very easy for me to get up in the morning. Okay, goodbye and till next time.